All right, here we go. All right,
Sign my yearbook.
all right, this Brian Simpson, the creative director at Chaotic Moon Studios, one of the top, we say application development companies, right? And I was just wondering, mobile application.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if you could just talk about how you got where you are today, and just maybe some background on what a person needs to do, kind of maybe to get into the industry.
Well, if you want to talk about background, that could take a little while. And
Cliff Notes version.
Yeah, Cliff Notes version. My roots are actually in 3D computer animation. That was my foundation out of college. It's not exactly what I went to school for, but it is the degree I chose. Mainly because it offered a lot of diversity when it came to kind of what made up 3D animation. You had the video component, you had the artistic illustrative component, you had the audio component. You had so much that goes into a 3D animated commercial, movie, whatever, even a video game, that I figured at some point, if it's not what I exactly wanted to do, I had an exit. I had several avenues that I could exit out of and still not feel like I had completely needed to have a full career change and shift. So, which is actually exactly what happened. Animation is not something that I ended up taking a complete liking to. It was more of a technical skill than it was an artistic skill, and my passions and the things that really made me tick were on the creative side. So I decided that yes, I wasn't going to abandon animation, but it definitely was not going to be my sole career focus. And so with that, I kind of jumped shipped through various circumstances and projects and connections into the world of interactive design, interactive media, primarily web design, flash animation, kind of carrying over some of that skill set into a more interactive version of what I was doing, and graphic design, just traditional print media, logo design. I mean, anything of that nature. So how that kind of brought me into where I am now, really the mobile world, as I was telling somebody earlier, like I didn't even have a cell phone until I was a junior in college. And that was only 10, 11 years ago. So now, I don't think anyone really thought that cell phones would, I don't know, I mean, I'm not an expert in like prophetic technology down the road, but I mean, for everyone to basically have their own personal computer on their hand, a platform by which media and information and just rich content can be delivered to them as soon as they turn on their phone. I don't think anyone really had that kind of foresight to know that this was going to be such a huge medium. And in fact, the job that I have now didn't even exist 3 years ago. So it kind of gives it just kind of speaks to where I don't even know what I'm doing. Just kidding, because no, just how new and how exciting it is to be what I'm doing, to be doing what I'm doing. I'm privileged that it is to be doing what I'm doing. But yeah, I mean, it's all about content nowadays. Whether you're on the web or you're on your phone or you're reading in a magazine, that's all people really care about is a good experience and engaging experience. So that's kind of what really I bring along with just a good understanding of design aesthetic, is understanding how users use things and what keeps people engaged into a product or watching a video or reading your brochure, you know.
All right, so your background is logo design, animation design, web design, print design, and so you're now a creative director. If working at Chaotic Moon, could you talk a little bit about how those skills come into handy when you're helping direct other designers to make sure that the user has a good experience when they're going through, say, a mobile application to read a newspaper or a magazine or a book?
Yeah. Well, I think, we're all consumers. So, and we're all users of these products. So, and essentially, we're kind of, when I sit down to explore and lay out a map for how a user is going to get from point A to point B to point C, point D, whatever, these multi-points along an experience of an application, I kind of rely heavily on myself and my own usability tests. So yeah, in software we have what are called dot releases, which most people are familiar with, where you have like a 1.1 version, 1.2 version. And a lot of that, is for the sake of, cleaning up basically some development bugs and maybe some cleanup on some graphics, or just things that may have gotten overlooked in the initial release of an application. But a lot of that also is it gives time for the software developer and the person actually putting out the product to kind of see how it's being used, and then they go back and then take that information, the analytics that is produced from that usability, and implement that as quickly as possible, because the last thing you want for your software is the word to get around that it stinks. So you kind of want to, and you'll see this if you have an iPhone, your apps are being updated on a almost weekly basis, because they are constantly getting data that gives them suggestions on how your app is being used and where it's breaking down, where it's going right, and some minor tweaks that may improve on the user experience to keep their usership, which is really where their value is, keeping them engaged and using their application. So
cool. Could you speak a little bit about, if you were to tell content creators, either authors of a book or publishers of a book, how applications can add value to that content, whether it be say a traditional book that they're also going to have as an iBook or an ebook on Amazon Kindle or the iPad or whatever, Barnes & Noble's Nook. How does interactivity and maybe even multimedia, do you think that can add to specific kind of books, whether it be maybe it's a nonfiction where it's how-to, so they have videos?
Yeah.
Can it really distract, though, from specific books, maybe works of literature? Do they really need links to more information? Is it really just about the text,
Yeah, I think that would have to be kind of a genre-specific type of approach. I could see very much historical fiction even being able to have an extra bed of content that can kind of help set the story in place properly. Whereas just traditional fiction, I mean, maybe, but it wouldn't be anything more than just adding color illustrations. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it's really at that point, how do you want to enhance your colorful illustrations? So I mean, there's not too many novels out there right now that come complete with pictures. Mm-hmm. I know this because I don't read a lot of novels for that very fact. So
you're a visual guy.
Yeah, because I'm a visual guy and I like picture books. So anyways, yeah, I think you have to treat, you can't just, and I think this is what's happening, and we'll learn, but I think this is what's happening in like digital publishing or things, that you can just blanket an idea or a concept over multiple types of genres, and it's just not going to work the same. I know that our company just finished working on some interactive books for the iPad for Callaway Digital, which is the digital publishing agency for Sesame Street. And we just finished developing the monster at the end of this book, Grover at the monster at the end of this book, which is Sesame Street's largest selling children's book of all time. And that book was extremely enhanced by interactive elements of it. We had places, if you ever read the book, I suggest you pick it up. It was very good at age 3. There's various points throughout the book where Grover is trying to keep the reader from not turning the page, because there's a monster at the end of the book. So it opens up that whole platform of interactivity. That book was perfect for that, because you had points where, obviously you want them to keep turning the page, but they had to go through different obstacles to get to the next page. So a platform like that was brilliant for something like on the children. I think I definitely think that children's book level, and it's perfect. Digital publishing will always be great, because kids need that extra. They need that extra. They can't just be satisfied with reading the words and creatively coming up in their head as to creating this environment. They don't have the life experience, maybe, or the intelligence of having gone to college for years and being able to read a book on, the Battle of the Bulge.
Well, it probably grabs their attention more too.
Yeah.
It keeps them engaged. As far as genres, you mentioned maybe historical books. If you're even reading historical fiction or even historical nonfiction, maybe adding maps, even older style maps,
Mm-hmm.
or more information. What pitfalls, though, are there as far as, I guess, would you advocate keeping all the content on that same application or on that same ebook? Or, because if you start linking to third-party sites, and then what if that web page goes down or is not available, then you kind of run into the problem of linking to third-party sites, which you're not really in control of. So would you advocate maybe keeping it all kind of in-house?
So with anything that's hard-coded, such as external links or source imagery or anything, whether it be web design or software development, like, you have the ability to make those updates. I mean, if it's a web design, or a website, I should say, you update the website and republish it. If it's software development, it just rolls out in the next dot release.
Okay.
So I mean, it's not something that you have to like spend a whole lot of attention thinking about. Like, I'm going to source something that may not be there 5 years from now or whatever.
So if it was an app, you could update it and fix those links. If it was an ebook, though, depending on what kind of technology it's using.
Yeah, that's really platform specific.
Yeah.
The problem sometimes too is, because some ebooks, some ebook readers don't even have access to, I don't have a Nook, and I don't develop for Nook or for the, what are the other?
Some of the other ones, Amazon Kindle.
The Kindle. I don't.
You just have the iPad, right?
I just have the iPad, and even then, I don't read a ton of books to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really platform specific when it comes to certain, I guess, quote unquote, future projected obstacles, as to what you cannot source.
Okay.
Interactively. So from that aspect of things.
I was thinking an ebook for, say, a how-to, even a fitness book.
Mm-hmm.
You could have videos in there maybe on how to do this specific bench press or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was thinking maybe classic literature might have a little bit of background about that time period, but it's almost like you need the content separate from the container, and then also you gotta think this is the original content, this is this added content that we're adding.
Yeah.
That might even be, you could even turn that option off.
Well, I think the real challenge that any publisher or writer faces is, what's the payoff? Am I really by taking this extra investment into adding additional content, is the payoff great enough to make it worth their while? And then from that point on, it's really up to the publisher to be responsible for that. So if they're going to throw something in there that may need updating down the road, or maybe isn't timeless in a way that if someone were to pick up their Kindle 10 years down the road and it's the content they're putting in there is irrelevant, then that's kind of from a client relation perspective, I kind of have to defer to them to make certain judgment calls on that type of stuff, and then just do what I'm told. So, I mean, there's surely a case for that. I think it's more rare than anything else, though. I mean, yeah, there's definitely that possibility, but I mean, again, technology, that's the thing about digital publishing, is that technology and platforms are constantly changing. So to say that you're going to pick up your Kindle like you would a book that's been on a shelf for the past 15 years and just start reading again, probably not going to happen. In fact, your digital version of that printed book will probably have crossed multiple platforms over the course of that 15 years, and it'll have maintained its original shape, but it'll probably have gained something along the way, almost like a snowball. It's kind of actually a cool thing about digital publishing, is that it kind of picks up things along the way, unlike a archived website that doesn't get touched, you know, like, because we can read websites from 1993.
Yeah.
But I mean, the content clearly is not as rich back then.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the only way to increase the richness of that content is either to redesign the website. The only thing that really sticks is kind of like the base text, you know. So
cool. All right. Well, thank you for all these answers, these questions. That's really helped for kind of an inside perspective on digital publishing and mobile application development. Again, this is Brian Simpson, creative director at Chaotic Moon Studios. Thanks, Brian.
sure, man.
All right.